Hello everyone, Solmon here, and a few days or possibly knowing myself, a few millennia ago, I uploaded a video and made a post on Twitter where you guys could ask me some questions. And let's just say you guys are really good at asking questions. It doesn't surprise me from my audience. You are a smart bunch. But yes, so let's get on with the questions. First one, coming from NCO Pictures, an excellent friend of both, me and the channel. And his question is, what got you interested in warships, and what is your most favorite and / least favorite video you've made? So, to answer your first questions, so funnily enough, I've always been into warships. I've always been into ships, machines, cars, tanks, planes. Well, I've always been into that sort of sphere, but I didn't take naval history as seriously as I do now up until 3 to 4-ish years ago. I'm going to say 3. And that is all thanks, believe it or not, to the Blues Brothers. Now, strap in, it's a long story, but back a few years ago, my music professor, we were watching the Blues Brothers movie, the original one, and me being the eager little knobhead I decided, I'm going to, not wait until the next class to finish the film. I'm going to finish the film at home, and so I did. And I began listening to the soundtrack of the movie, and then I discovered that there was a unused song, and the name of that song being Sink the Bismarck. And eventually I listened to it, and I just absolutely fell in love with it. I to this day, and I much more prefer the Johnny Horton version, but yeah. To this day, I just still can't get the dun dun. The beginning drum solo is just so anchored, haha pun, into my mind. It just evokes so much emotion. Well, mostly due to the sentimental attachment I have for it, but yes. That is how I got into naval history, because listening to that song, listening to the story of the Bismarck and how it was sunk, and well, that just led me to researching the ships, and well, we're here now. And yeah. So, what is my most favorite video? Well, this is going to get... before I answer that, what's my least favorite one? It's hard to say. It's practically impossible to say, because I just, worked too much on these videos to truly, at any real sort of degree, actually say to myself, hey, this sucks, or I don't like this, because if I didn't like something, I would have never spent a month or more working on it. Or just, I don't work on stuff I don't like. If I don't think it's funny, if I don't think it's entertaining, if I don't think I'm going to, look back in 15 years and say, hey, 13-year-old Solmon was really, had just massive brains when he did this, but yeah. So, my favorite video would have to be Thomas's Merry Christmas. Because while it's not that it doesn't break anything in terms of quality, standard, storytelling, or illustration-wise, that video does mean a lot to me, because by the end of 2019, I was really disappointed with myself that in 2 years of being on YouTube, I had not started my series, and I was really sad about the fact that, the year was coming to a close, the decade was coming to a close, and I still hadn't released anything, and 5 days before Christmas, I just thought to myself, you know what, screw it. I'm gonna just make up a story on the spot. I'm gonna illustrate it all in 5 days, which I did, and that got me Thomas's Merry Christmas, and that was a pretty good story. I'm still relatively proud of it. I'm not so proud of the illustrations, however, but yes, I do like that story, and I'm very proud of it, and I'm really happy for what it did, because sometimes an art piece isn't just as much as what it tells, but also what it does to both, the listeners and the creator and writer of that story. and for that reason it has a very special place in my heart. So yeah, favorite video would have to be Thomas's Merry Birthday. Next question comes from Ross B, and he says, what's the inspiration of both Solmon and Invincible? That is that's an excellent question. So I'm going to start with Solmon. Solmon has always existed, and this is going to be Solmon has existed for as long as I've been drawing, because I've kept every drawing I've drawn since I was like a baby, but I've always liked the idea of having my own character in the Thomas universe. And Solmon has, over the years, Solmon has been a lot of things over the years, but he went from being a crook that, cannibalized engines to being a just space alien engine. Yes, that was going to be a thing at one point. And now he's, war machine. So yeah, he's been through a lot, but the main inspiration for Solmon, believe it or not, it's not me. Well, inherently I do write a bit of myself in all my characters, but mostly Solmon. But yeah, the main inspiration for him really comes through the concept of someone who realizes, like, I wanted to write an engine who was fully aware of, how bad the things he does are, because Solmon has machine guns. Solmon can't just say, oh, well, I'm not, sure, I was built for the war, but I'm not doing any harm. He's killing people and machine gunning engines and soldiers. Like, Solmon, what he does is a horrific thing, but he recognizes that, and he doesn't let his job become the only thing that defines him. What defines Solmon, the way Solmon defines himself, is as someone who does what is best for not only himself but for everyone. And he's still morally grey, and most of the time, in any situation, he's in the wrong because he kills, or he, shoots or whatever, but still, most of the time he's in the wrong, but still, the moral, greater wrong, but he still tries to make a right, and at the end of the day, he's forced into that position, and there's not much he can do about it other than, try and do the best he can out of any situation, which is why I think a lot of people can relate to him in some sense. Then Invincible's the complete opposite of that, because Invincible, he also realizes he's a machine built for war. He's not stupid. He knows full well what he's meant to do. But unlike Solmon, who, can push aside those, kind of consuming thoughts of superiority, Invincible fully embraces them. And the main inspiration for how I wanted to get that concept of that engine to life was, when I sat down to design Invincible, I thought to myself, okay, if war was a steam locomotive, what would it look like? What would it be, and how would it speak? And that is how Invincible is war. He's this gigantic, just expensive and overly complicated to the point where, even his valve gear is my favorite part of his design, because it looks like it could potentially work, but it's way too complicated for any sane reason. Same thing for war. It's just overly complicated for no particular reason other than just, it's complicated. So yeah, Invincible, someone's, origin point is kind of hard to pinpoint, but I like to say that the modern idea of what Solmon is, as in the character you see in the videos, I'd say that idea came around somewhere in 2017. As for Invincible, well, he really just, became a thing in, I'd say, summer of 2019, if you want to, pinpoint the exact time in which they came into existence. But yeah, I wouldn't necessarily call them two sides of a coin, as much as I call them just, they're on a spectrum, a very, very big moral spectrum, and they lie on very close, dangerously close ends, but they're like Solmon's clearly in the white, leaning towards the grey. Invincible's in the black, clearly leaning towards the grey. So yeah, that is my inspiration and the way I see these characters. Unity, also a good friend, asks, what in your opinion is the best naval battle in history? Okay, so I wouldn't say best naval battle because people die, and I don't want to, be haunted by the ghost of a sailor for saying that, the way he died was really cool. But what I would say is my, most, the battle I love, seeing and researching and thinking about has to be the Battle of Jutland, because of how massive it is. Just the sheer scale of shipping involved during that battle is really, really cool. And of course, World War One, dreadnoughts, super dreadnoughts, all that good stuff I like. So yeah, Battle of Jutland, definitely my top pick for a cool battle that most people would probably like to research. Connor, or more commonly known as Titan of Thunder, asks, who's the hardest to draw out of all your OCs? Okay, so the hardest to draw. Now, a lot of people would have to say, like, if I asked someone else, who do you think is really hard to draw? They'd probably say something like, Invincible. But Invincible, because of how much I've drawn him, he's incredibly easy to draw for me. And that kind of goes for all my other characters. Like, I've drawn them so much, sketched and inked, and just imagined them in my mind through so many angles and perspectives that there isn't one I could potentially have any trouble drawing. But, like, on a scale, I'd say Godred is the most difficult one to draw, especially his face. Like, I don't know, I just have a hard time kind of nailing him down. Like, you can see in Queen Anne's Christmas, he changed his faces like 3 times, which is ridiculous. And especially his body, I have a lot of trouble with that because Godred's not real. He's not a real class of warship. So it's kind of hard to, use your own references for something that doesn't exist. But I've, built a model of him in Minecraft, so hopefully that should be my reference for the future. But yeah, Godred's definitely the hardest to draw. DL asks, what is your biggest motivation to create a Cruel Engines thesis? Do you still have any possibility of an NWR locomotive appearing in your series? And what will happen to Invincible and Solmon after the war? So for your second and third question, I'm just going to put that up to, wherever the story leads us. I don't want to spoil anything, and I don't want to, make any promises I can't keep. However, what was the biggest motivation to create a Cruel Engines thesis? I can't say for sure. It's just I like to tell stories. I like Thomas the Tank Engine. I like war. I like political history. I like naval history. And that just kind of came together as something I like doing. So I'll keep doing that. Plush asks, how does Invincible's valve gear work? Well, it does, apparently. Were there any other engines built for the ROD? Well, I don't know if he means as in, were there any other ones apart from Solmon and Invincible in your canon or in real life? In real life, yes, there were many engines built for the ROD, in the hundreds. As for my AU, I'll have to put that to future Solmon to figure that out. And then the third question, which is really interesting, how do the engines in ships need their drivers and firemen? Here's the thing, in my universe, and this kind of answers the one about someone playing chess, but in my universe, the machines can move on their own. Like, they have full control over their bodies. I won't spoil how, that is subject for another episode, but the reason why they have crews is mainly just to keep them in line and to make sure nothing goes wrong, because an engine still needs to, get the coal shoveled in, and someone needs to watch the steam pressure and whatnot so the engine can, concentrate fully on the task, which is pull stuff or push it. as for a battleship, well, there's 100 billion different systems going on at once. Like, Godred can move his gun turrets, elevate, and, depress his guns. He can go forwards and backwards. However, he can't actually load the actual shells. He needs a gun crew for that, so that's why they're there. Because, you need to push the shell into the shell hoist and actually, put it in the, breech of the gun, but the whole process, and well, you need a crew for that. So, yeah, mixture of reality and a ton of fantasy, but I really do think that giving the engines full agility and, just giving them power over themselves is just such a liberating story element. I really don't get why people don't do it. It's horrifically creepy to think that the engines just live their entire lives being controlled by others and somehow still get blamed for the accidents. Yeah, not epic. Definitely not something I'd recommend for anyone writing anything. Just don't do that, at all. It's just weird. Please stop. But yeah. And as for someone playing chess, same way Emily can, has a stick that she beats the engines with, it's mainly do that because it's attached to him. He, it's part of his body, or well, framework, let's say, so he can move it, he can use it, like he can move his wheels and valve gear. Alright, so moving on to the YouTube questions. Mainline Pro D asks, I've been meaning to ask this for a while, but where is the Solmanic Empire located? Is it part of Britain or, well, yeah, the Solmanic Empire, if there ever was a joke that went too far. So, quick background for those who don't know about it. The Solmanic Empire is my own fictional country that I am, of course, the emperor of. And how do I say this? It originally started out as a joke, and then I took it too far. And now the Solmanic Empire went from an inside joke with a few friends to being an outside joke with not so many friends. And now the Solmanic Empire, on Twitter at least, is mostly known for ruining the lives of pedophiles. Yes, that is something I do in my spare time, so rest assured, if I'm not making a Cruel Engines thesis episode, that probably means I'm ruining the life of a pedophile. But yeah, yeah, those are long stories that facilitate their own videos, but yeah. The Solmanic Empire is its own little island thing. I don't know where I would put it, honestly, on the world map. Maybe somewhere close to Canada, maybe going in, the east coast of Canada, maybe. Yeah, somewhere around that, yeah. That is where I assume it would be, ideally, I guess, yeah. But, yeah, that is, I still haven't figured it out. If you guys want to see a, video detailing the specifics of the Solmanic Empire, then sound off in the comments below. Z Mallard, I assume that's German, says, favorite class of engine and where is the cheese? Well, as for the cheese, I am very sad to, announce to everyone I sadly cannot locate it. As for my favorite class of engine, of course it goes to the, well, I was almost confident in that answer, but I like a lot of engines. But if there is one I like more than any other, it has to be the LBSCR H2. It's just the type of engine, you look at it and it makes you feel good. I have no other way of describing it, but it just looks perfect. It's the perfect size. It's just the Jesus locomotive. It's our Lord's and Savior, and I'm so angry that, current year and current problems have put a pretty evident stop to the construction of the replica Beachy Head. But yeah, hopefully, I just wish that possibly sometime in the 2030s I'll be able to see it. Hopefully, it's definitely on my bucket list. Juaxo120 channel. I hope I didn't butcher that, but Are you going to do a third episode of A Cruel Engine's Thesis, or was the second episode the last? Oh boy, we still have a lot of episodes to work through. Trust me, Churchill, he's not done traumatizing those poor engines yet. Absolutely not. He still has a lot of operations and schemes and tactics he's going to put to use. Just you watch. NWR of Sodor asks, how does your Sodor change from the original RWS timeline? Second question, what inspired you to make videos? And third question, if someone is looking to start a series, what are a few tips you would suggest? Well, as to start a series, as dumb as it may sound, I'd honestly encourage anyone to just get up and do something. Just put some wooden trains on tracks, put some trains models together, just do something, because the worst thing you can do that prevents you from making a series is thinking about it. That is the mistake I did for almost 3 years. Well, I did for 3 years. And it's that I just didn't put myself in the idea that I was not going to make the best episode ever on the first attempt. That's just not how it works. So one day, and this is going back to why I love Thomas's Merry Birthday so much, it's just that, I needed something to get myself out of the headspace of, I need to make the best episode possible, and I just, in trying to make the best episode ever, I just, made no episodes. So the best advice I can give to anyone trying to make a series is just make an episode. Do something, tell a story you want to tell, and tell it with whatever you have. Hell, you don't even need to draw multiple frames for it. Just draw cover art and hope for the best. And yeah, just do it. As simple and as repetitive as that motto is, doing something is what gets you somewhere. As for what inspires me to make videos, it's mostly music and movies. It's where I get most of my inspiration to make stories, if that's what you're referring to. Or sometimes I'll just think of a really funny joke and I'll think to myself, yeah, that deserves a spot on my YouTube channel. But yeah. And finally, how does your Sodor change from the original RWS one? Well, I don't want to spoil too much, but what I'm going to say is, in my universe, Sodor is much, much, much more industrialized. I mean, they built Godred. That is a feat of engineering onto itself. But yes, Sodor is much more industrialized and bigger in a lot of ways. But that's where I'll leave it. D-Man Cluster asks, if I can't ask you your favourite flavour of ice cream, yes, sorry for that. I just can't say it. It's too personal and would land me in too much legal trouble. What is your least favourite flavour then? Well, I'm sorry to all the chocolate fans out there, but chocolate ice cream is disgusting. I hate it, and if you like it, then I'm sorry, but you need to go to rehab. Anyway, hot take over. Carl Matthews asks, does it take you a long time to draw your episodes? Yes. Is Thomas Mysteries still active? That depends, because I just haven't had the motivation to do anything with it recently. I might reactivate sometime in the future, possibly this summer, if all goes according to plan, because I just haven't had the drive to keep up that show going. But yeah, who knows? I might come back sometime, hopefully this year. And thirdly, he asks, is Solmon in Gordon the Proud Engine the same Solmon as in Brains and Brawn? Ah, yes, finally, someone brings up the question of the Solmiverse. And yes, it's the same character, just from a different universe. The the Cruel Engine's Thesis universe and the Gordon the Proud Engine universe, which is the same universe as Thomas's Merry Birthday, they're separate, but Solmon is the same character in both of them. It's just that, in Thomas's Merry Birthday and Gordon the Proud Engine, Solmon is an H2, but in the True Legends Thesis universe, Solmon's a G3 Land Cruiser. But yeah, apart from that glaring difference and the fact that, well, in one universe someone has machine guns, in the other he has determination, they're the same character pretty much, just different universes. Tank Engine 97 asks, what is your what's drawing software do you use, and favorite video you've done? Well, I've already answered the second question, but for the first one, so for the longest time I used Ibis Paint, which is a remarkably solid app as far as free drawing apps go. I would recommend it to anyone who doesn't have any money to spare on drawing apps, especially if you're on mobile. But right now what I use for my illustrations is Procreate. Just if you have an iOS device and you want to draw, don't bother. Like, it's more than worth the $6. And like, you have the ability to make your own brushes, download brushes, some of them free, some of them you have to pay for. But yeah, Procreate, if you have the money, just buy Procreate. Don't even think about it. It's the only app that's worthwhile on there. Well, and if you don't have the money, I highly recommend Ibis Paint. It's just a magnificent application. Just use it too if you just don't have the money. Anyway, guys, I hope this, answers your questions. I tried keeping this within a relatively sane amount of time, 30-ish minutes. That should do it, but yeah. Hopefully it answers all the questions you had, and until next time, I am, and I am hopefully continue to be Solmon, and I hope to have risen to the occasion. I'll see you all next
And maybe down the field they'll know the sky. We'll never change our course, so army, you dare shine. Why, roll up the coordinating anchors away. Sail, navy, down the field and sink the army brave. Behold their sailors.
Everybody drink up while you may.
Behold their sailors.
For you're gonna sail at break of day.